This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, a new generation of warships. The Irving shipyard in Halifax starts cutting steel for 15 River-class destroyers.
Remembering Harold Anderson, the Halifax man with a love of high heels, is being praised as a pioneer.
And school's out for summer, marking the last day for this retiring junior high teacher.
The Canada Day long weekend is here, and a nice start. Saturday looking at a fine day overall with some wet weather building in for Sunday. Gradual clearing into Monday. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. Defence Minister Bill Blair was in Halifax today to mark the start of construction on Canada's next generation of warships.
The project has been more than a decade in the making. The new vessels will replace the Navy's aging frigates and destroyers. Brett Ruskin tells us more now about the significance and the cost of this project.
Ships are starting here in Halifax once again. So the new Canadian surface combatants have been announced. The official launch of this construction phase of the National Shipbuilding Strategy is now underway. So take a look behind me here. This is the Arctic and Offshore Patrol ship. That's a hull there. The ships that we're talking about are going to be even larger than that there. This is where the news conference took place today. Here, talking about these new ships, they're going to be named the River class of vessels. So named after major Canadian rivers. The first one coming off the line is going to be HMCS Fraser, which flows into the Pacific Ocean. Then it'll be HMCS Saint Laurent, which flows into the Atlantic. And the third one is going to be HMCS Mackenzie, flowing up into the Arctic. So some symbolism there, some perhaps national pride built in there, and each subsequent ship will be named after a major river. Now, this is going to be a major project, to be sure. The largest and most expensive procurement project that Canada has ever embarked upon, and the largest shipbuilding project since the Second World War. Now, we heard from Bill Blair making the announcement today, talking about the cost of this, likely in the $50 to $60 billion range of taxpayer funds, but that is going to have a benefit to folks here working, and also extra benefits to the overall community and nationally, he said, with this investment. Here's what he had to say about those jobs.
Now, this investment is going to deliver, obviously, for the Royal Canadian Navy and our national defence, but it also delivers results for Canadians and perhaps most importantly for Canadian workers. Throughout the entire 25-year construction period, we expect that this project is going to create and sustain more than 10,000 jobs and generate over $40 billion for Canada's gross domestic product.
With that 25-year timeline, we're looking at the first 9 vessels constructed between now and the year 2040, with the remaining 6 vessels by the year 2050. Now, the work on exactly confirming and locking in the design plans is still underway, figuring out exactly which modules might go where, because this is based on a British-designed vessel called the Type 26. The Australians have their own version, and Canada has to secure and figure out what our version of the Type 26 vessel, what the surface combatants for Canada will look like. So that's the next phase to watch for, the official signing of the construction contract with Irving Shipbuilding. That should come by the end of the year. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
Ken Hansen is a military analyst who says over the 25-year construction phase, the design of the ships will evolve to meet military needs.
And that's critical to keep the shipbuilding going and to keep modernization going. So injecting, new technologies as they arrive. This design will not be set for the next 25 years, meaning there will have to be changes.
I'll talk to Ken Hansen about what this shipbuilding contract will mean for the Navy. That's our newsmaker just after 6:30.
The operators of a rock quarry in Colchester County are looking to expand, but people who live nearby think it's happening too fast and without due diligence. Some say it's an example of why Nova Scotia needs to update the way it regulates industrial projects. Taryn Grant reports.
On the shores of Cobequid Bay, dotted with lakes and farmland, is the tiny community of Little Dyke, Nova Scotia. Right in the middle of it is a rock quarry. Sand and gravel have been pulled out of the earth in this area for more than 30 years, trucked away to become concrete. And there's still plenty more that could be extracted.
We don't have any issue with it continuing. We simply want it to be safe for everybody.
Harvey McEachern has lived here for almost as long as the quarry has been operating. He says when he moved in, it was a small operation, but it's grown a lot. Osco Aggregates, which is owned by Irving, is the company behind the operation. It opened this pit in 2018, and it just applied for provincial approval to make it bigger.
There are a number of safety concerns that we don't seem to be getting any traction on with politicians and the people that make decisions. Crystalline silica is one that's a concern for us. That's a air contaminant. It's similar to pollen or dust, and it's a natural product of crushing rock. And it's kind of like the asbestos of 2024, as far as we know for the research we've done. It should be concerning, but it doesn't seem to be on anybody's radar at the moment.
Other issues raised by the community include noise that sometimes goes around the clock and heavy industrial traffic. The company says it does all it can to mitigate impacts on its neighbors, and it says it follows all laws and regulations. McEachern and his neighbors are submitting their concerns to the Department of Environment. There's a 30-day window for them to do that. It's the standard process for environmental assessment. This environmental advocate says that's not long enough.
The environmental assessment document is quite long and quite technical. It can be more than 1,000 pages and have 20 appendices. So it's a big document, and communities have 30 days to respond. So we hear over and over again that 30 days is too short. It's too short a time to find out about it, change your life around, spend a lot of time reading these technical documents, comment when you can, and also try to find help on some of the really technical stuff.
The Environment Department is reviewing the environmental assessment process. It's set in legislation that it's supposed to be updated by 2024, but the government won't say if it's on track. What is clear is that extending the public comment period is not on the table.
That 30-day period of consultation is for the public. It's for Mi'kmaq engagement. And certainly I feel it's a robust system, a strong system of engagement to solicit feedback from the public.
The residents of Little Dyke have until July 6th to submit their feedback on the quarry expansion. And the Environment Minister has until July 26th to make a decision. Taryn Grant, CBC News, Little Dyke.
Police in Truro are investigating a fatal hit and run last night. They say just after 1 in the morning, a 40-year-old man was struck by a vehicle while on the corner of King and Duke Streets. They've identified the car as a black Hyundai Elantra with a Nova Scotia license plate and significant damage to the front. Police are asking around for any witnesses or video of the incident. They have not identified the victim.
The RCMP's Provincial Internet Child Exploitation Unit has charged a man in Amherst for sexual offenses against a child. Police say 36-year-old Lee Gerald James Legier has been charged with luring a child and making sexually explicit material available to a child. Investigators executed a search warrant at a residence in Amherst after they received a notification from the National Child Exploitation Crime Centre. Legier was released on conditions and is scheduled to appear in Amherst Provincial Court on August the 26th.
The private lending firm that pushed Atlantic Canada's largest newspaper chain into insolvency says negotiations aimed at selling Saltwire Network Inc. and the Halifax Herald Limited have reached a critical phase. A lawyer for the Fiera Private Debt Fund made the statement today in Nova Scotia Supreme Court. Justice John Keith later approved a motion to extend the media company's protection from creditors until August 8th. Last week, the court-appointed monitor overseeing the potential sale of the deeply indebted companies confirmed the selection of an unnamed bidder who has plans to operate the companies as a viable business. At the time, Toronto-based KSV Restructuring Inc. said negotiations with the bidder were advancing towards a transaction that could be completed by August 9th.
All right, the long weekend is here. If you have any plans, you're going to want to listen to what this man has to say next.
Now, you've been predicting a bit of a mix for the 3 days. Still the same, I'm guessing.
Yeah, not much has changed, including the uncertainty for Monday. And that uncertainty, unfortunately, does linger, especially along the Atlantic coastline, where, again, a good chunk of the population lives. High temperatures today. Beautiful kickoff if you were lucky enough to have the day off or get outside. To high teens, low 20s today. Northwest wind and all that humidity gone, and just a perfect night tonight. Windows open kind of a night. High pressure dominating for tomorrow. though the clouds from this system will already start to fan in, and we will certainly be watching those. But the wet weather from this system not moving in until after midnight tomorrow. So tomorrow looking like a lovely day. I mean, could be a little bit warmer, I'm sure, for some folks. High teens along the coast, but most of us are going to be comfortably into the low 20s for tomorrow. Now, as we look ahead into the timeline of all this, we are going to be watching, again, some clouds in the mix. Could be a little bit of a sluggish start tomorrow, but I do think we eventually mix out to a mix of sun and cloud. And then for Saturday evening, still fine if you've got some backyard barbecue plans. The rain really doesn't arrive till after midnight Saturday and Sunday. Sunday is looking wet. Periods of rain off and on throughout the day. Southerly winds. Note the timeline here. That front hits the coast and then kind of stalls there. Critically, stalls just along the coastline. And some forecast models, 50 to 100 kilometers further to the north with this do have the Atlantic coastline looking at those showers. This particular model just offshore, and a difference between 50 and 100K is really going to be the difference here, especially along the Atlantic coastline. I'm a little more optimistic that the valley, the North Shore, and up into places like Inverness will be likely safe. Few shower chances, maybe even a few sunny breaks. That Atlantic coastline, if you're going to the Wanderers game, firework plans, make sure your plans do include an umbrella or rain jacket, and stay tuned for updates, obviously, as that gets closer, but it's really close to call.
All right.
Okay.
Stay
Thanks,
tuned
Ryan.
for the full weather forecast. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
The ferry service between Sydney and Argentia in Newfoundland and Labrador that was scheduled to start next Wednesday has been delayed again. Marine Atlantic says the Alasuinu vessel is still undergoing a cleaning process, and its fuel and lubrication system. For the past 3 weeks, technicians have cleared a section of line only to discover more debris. Crossings have been canceled up until July the 10th and rerouted through Port aux Basques. Marine Atlantic says they are adding more crossings with the Blue Pooties, Highlanders, and Leif Erikson to increase capacity.
A Halifax man considered a cross-dressing pioneer has died. Harold Anderson wore women's clothes in public at a time when it was not generally accepted. His family and friends say he paved the way for others to be themselves. Kayla Hounsell has his story.
I'm not trying to be a woman. I just am a male who likes feminine clothing.
Harold Anderson bought his first pair of women's shoes in 1958. He would head out at night, sporting the shoes under the cover of darkness in downtown Halifax.
There's an awful lot of people who accept me as I am because they're so used to it.
It became the talk of the town. Some were surprised, others less kind.
There's always a threat to my welfare.
It wasn't until 1967 when Pierre Elliott Trudeau famously declared,
"There's no place for the state in the bedrooms of the nation,"
that Anderson decided to write to the Premier of Nova Scotia asking if it was okay for him to wear women's clothing in public.
The Premier wrote back and said, "You are more than welcome. It's nice to have the letter we have," saying to him, "Go for it. Be yourself."
That I'm liberated from being a prisoner of my gender.
His family says he wasn't gay.
A lot of people say, "Oh, he liked boys." No, he was crazy about girls.
Yeah.
He loved music, hockey, baseball, and going for drives in classic cars.
He had no ego around being, special or a pioneer.
Lisa Cochran knew him best and says he lived a mostly solitary life.
He liked to walk about and have chance encounters with people, be complimented. Usually the encounters were positive, particularly in the later years.
Anderson had a stroke 3 weeks ago and never recovered. He was 86 and even in his final days wanted to wear his heels.
Put his great big stilettos on him and cover them up with a sheet in his hospital bed. But he had a smile on his face knowing he had them on.
His family says he stepped out at a time when many could not, and hoped to inspire others to be themselves. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
The community of New Waterford was invited to take one last walk through the halls of Breton Education Centre. The school has been the heartbeat of the community for decades, but its doors are closing for the final time today. The CBC's Kyle Moore has that story.
The people walking through these halls are on a trip down memory lane. For decades, this is where students from New Waterford came to get their education.
Not a lot has changed. It just has that same smell, the same just the same atmosphere, the same. It's like being a child again.
Colleen Lewis is a former student and hasn't been in the school since 1992.
I'm here just like everybody else to meet up with old friends, just to have one final walkthrough of a place that we just, the best times, and it's bittersweet.
The doors of Beck first opened in the fall of 1970. At that time, the graduating class was made up of more than 2,000 students. Enrollment has dropped to around 600, and the building is showing its age. A new school will open next door in September.
It's the end of an era.
Colin Campbell graduated from Beck in 1986 and has been a teacher here for more than 20 years. He says it's an emotional time for everyone.
I walked in on some teachers doing their marks. They're crying, filling out their comments, and I was introducing the valedictorian today. It's you're putting words on paper, and they're heartfelt words, so that it brings all the emotions right to the surface. Absolutely.
This is my high school ring from 1978.
The ring is 46 years old, bought for Linda Drake by her father. She says she was part of one of the largest classes to ever graduate here.
It's been a treasure for a very, very, very long time, so I always wear it to my high school reunions. We had an amazing class, so we just finished our 45th last year. So every 5 years we have a reunion, and we always have an amazing turnout.
Beck is best known for the Coal Bowl, a basketball tournament that has attracted teams from across the country over the years. That tradition will live on in the new school. But for people here, it's hard to let go.
It's going to be sad to see it go, but yeah, it served a lot of people in the community, and the new one's going to be even better.
A brighter future ahead as the sun sets on a lifetime of memories. Kyle Moore, CBC News, New Waterford.
Today is also the last day of school for a teacher at Halifax's Goresbrook Junior High who is retiring. He leaves behind great memories and a classroom with years of tradition. The CBC's Hannah Vino stopped by for a visit.
After 26 years of teaching, Basil Rose is retiring. He started this career later in life after returning to school in his 30s for his education degree.
I didn't start teaching till I was 38 years old. I just did I had a lot of jobs, and I realized late in life that they were just jobs and didn't inspire me to do anything. I mean, who wouldn't want the opportunity to inspire kids?
Brody Hamilton was one of his students this year.
Well, he's amazing, first of all, but he always makes me and my friends feel like we can be ourselves and express ourselves like any way possible.
In 2010, after being asked by the fire marshal to take down some flags, his students asked to paint them on the wall. Now every year, he encourages his students to paint and sign the walls. You might even spot some familiar names. Each year, his students look forward to adding their own creations.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited. All of last year, I was like, when are we going to be in grade 9 and when can we draw on the walls?
I was very excited.
What did you add?
I added like a little blue flower right by the Jumpin' Moses, and I signed my name with my best friends.
Principal Mark McPhee says that like his classroom, Mr. Rose has a lot of character.
I think that speaks to who he is, because he has a lot of character, and he shows up his authentic self to students, and that's one of the reasons the kids connect to him so well.
Mr. Rose says that the student and staff connections he has made are part of why the decision to retire was challenging.
I'll miss being in front of kids. I'll miss the opportunities that you have to, the daily connections you have with the kids. I'll miss the walls. I'll miss this classroom. I mean, I've been in the same classroom for the entire 16 years I've been here. So we'll miss that.
While Mr. Rose is unsure what will happen to the walls of his classroom, he says it would be lovely to see someone continue the tradition. Hannah Vino, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, Cole Harbour's own Nathan McKinnon took home 2 of the top awards at the 2024 NHL Awards in Las Vegas Thursday night.
He claimed both the Hart Trophy and the Ted Lindsay Award.
The winner of the Hart is, I hope you have a second speech, Nathan McKinnon.
The
Hart Trophy winner is selected by the Professional Hockey Writers Association and is awarded to the player they believe is the most valuable to his team. The Ted Lindsay Award recipient goes to the most outstanding player and is chosen by their peers.
McKinnon came second in the league with 140 points this season, which was a career high for the center. He scored 51 goals and had 89 assists in 82 games. I'd say he deserves the hardware.
That's pretty great for a local boy, isn't it?
We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us.
Yes, we have a lot more to come on CBC Nova Scotia News. More questions are being asked about President Biden's viability as a candidate after his debate performance last night.
And the future of Canada's Prime Minister is also in question after one of Justin Trudeau's former cabinet ministers says it's time for him to move on.
There's a beautiful spot in Bridgewater. Ryan is up next with his forecast. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
All right, sounds like if you're planning to do something in the sun, Saturday's your best bet.
Yes, get out and about then and then do something inside.
That's definitely going to be, Saturday is definitely going to be the brightest day, no question. And even that, we'll see some sun and cloud doing battle at times, as we'll run you through the hour by hour in just a second. Sunday's the wettest day. Monday, again, is variable. Certainly potential for some sun in the north, potential for some showers greater in the south. Let's walk you through the whole thing. And live shot right now. Hey, nice night for a bike ride.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Beautiful. Love the live shots. And yes, it is a beautiful around 20 degrees, 18 to be exact in Lunenburg right now. Mostly sunny skies. And yeah, that's going to be a popular spot tomorrow, no doubt. And as we look at those temperatures right now, across the province, for the most part, we've been riding into the low 20s today, which has been nice. Temperatures a little bit cooler in those onshore winds. You can see up towards the Northumberland shore into Inverness County. Again, with the wind coming in off the water, it's going to be cooler here. Warmest along that south shore region. The winds have been persistently from the northwest today, sustained in the 10, 15, 20 range, and some gusts upwards of 30 and 40 continuing right now in through Cape Breton and across eastern parts of the mainland. Couple of very isolated spits this afternoon. Those have cleared off, and it is going to be a really nice night tonight. Like beautiful. Windows open, as we said earlier. This is the system we're watching for the weekend, and it's rolling through the Great Lakes right now, wrapping some cooler temps into the prairies in its wake, and you can see the heat still on across the U.S. South. So for tonight, temperatures are going to be ranging between 9 and 12 degrees. Winds relatively light tonight, and then as we turn the page into tomorrow, those winds are going to kick up from the southwest. And you can see that cloud cover fanning in overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, and I think at times tomorrow morning, clouds could be a little on the stubborn side. Keep that in mind, and then it will break to a mix of sun and cloud. There's pretty good consistency with the model guidance, the high resolution guidance, that we should break to a mix of sun and cloud into the afternoon. So don't get dissuaded if things do cloud up a little bit through the mid to late morning time frame. We will be looking at temperatures tomorrow, generally into the 20s, very similar to today, but again, cooler along parts of the coastline in those onshore winds. But a lovely day across Cape Breton tomorrow. Northumberland Shore, really nice, in through Cobequid Bay and down to Halifax, around 20 degrees. Again, cooler if you're going to hit the beach tomorrow. Be mindful of that as we walk you through the valley and into the western areas of the province. Again, low 20s, but 18, 17 degrees in those onshore winds from Yarmouth, Shelburne counties up the South Shore. Sunday's our wet day, periods of rain. Looks like the wettest time of the day will be in the morning as the band of rain comes through. There's Monday, Canada Day, and again, breaking to a few sun breaks here for northern areas. Shower chances will be lingering along the south, especially right along the coastline, as we showed you earlier, but we'll show you in case you're just joining us. So this is the line coming in, and again, the rain filling in through Sunday morning. Those periods of rain breaking up and looking at just some scattered showers into Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, really not looking too bad. But that front is just stalled here, and stalled with moisture running up through it. And so that's why Monday is still a little up in the air. Some forecast models, 50 to 100 K further to the north, keeping the Atlantic coastline and even edging into central parts of the province with those shower chances. Some forecast models even showing shower chances lingering a little bit further north than that. This one is a little bit further to the south. And so, again, 50 to 100 K is going to make a huge difference. Right now, looks like bet on at least some showers in the mix on Monday. We'll, of course, be keeping our fingers and toes crossed with that. Make sure you got the umbrella, the rain jacket handy if you are going to any Canada Day celebrations. But hopefully, again, fingers crossed that front stays just offshore. Lingering shower chances Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday breaking certainly warmer, mid-20s, some sunshine in the mix. So overall, looking a little more optimistic toward mid next week. Tom and Amy.
All right, we'll take that.
We will.
Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourism Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismgaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
In the wake of the passing of legendary Canadian actor Donald Sutherland, much has been made about his maritime roots. Having been born in New Brunswick, Sutherland spent many childhood years in Nova Scotia.
But how would you like to see inside the home he spent those years in? The home's current owner opened its doors to us for a tour.
Hi, my name is Michelle Nickerson. We're here in Cookville, Nova Scotia, at the former home of actor Donald Sutherland. The home was built in 1948 to 1950 by his dad, Frederick Sutherland. It is under renovation, but I invite you to come in and have a tour.
Tell me about the history of the property.
To my knowledge, Frederick Sutherland designed it and had it built. I believe he was involved in it as well. There's a swimming pool here. There's 2 artesian wells because I believe he was a well driller. And there's just so many neat features in the house. It's 2 full baths and a half bath downstairs. The powers run underground, and for back in 1948 to 1950, that was ahead of his time. The floors are different. Probably nothing seen like this around here. They used to call it the palace, so it definitely was a palace back in the day. My daughter Sydney reached out to his publicist and wrote an email and said, my parents bought this house in Cookville, and it belonged to Donald Sutherland, and his dad had built it. And they found some items, and my mom would like to know if he would like to have them back. And it was just a couple days later, I got an email from the publicist, and she said he would absolutely love to have it back. So I was excited, and I was like, okay. So I sent him Rex Vito's maple syrup and maple candy, and I sent him some chocolate. I sent him pictures of the entire house and out back, and then he sent me back a very lovely email. So that was pretty special. So it says, "Dear Miss Nickerson, thank you. Thank you very much. I left there 70 years ago, went to the University of Toronto, and from there to England. Was back at Christmas twice, 53 and 54. Did a film somewhere down on the South Shore, Shelburne. Visited a couple cousins and an uncle in Lockport. But this, what you've sent me, is truly wonderful. The pictures, the maple butter, the memories, oh my God, the memories. Summertime, my mother used to make the most delicious strawberry shortcake, tea bisque, and my father grilled lamb chops on the outside grill. God, they were good. That round table in the recreation room was where we played bridge. I was working at CKBW. Is that still there? Have a happy time. Let me know how it all goes. The water in the well should be terrific. My dad had it drilled into bedrock, at least 20 gallons a minute. Artesian. Best. Donald." All right, so what I have here are some of the books that I found after I had sent what I had sent to him in September. But this one here is the best one. This one is actually Donald's book that he drew a picture of someone named Marge in, and he signed it. So that one there is a keepsake. That one is, that's very special. And so in the email, he had sent me a picture of his mom where she played hockey in Alberta. So that's his mom back in her university days. And then this here picture is out in front of the garage doors here in the driveway, and it's the whole family. And he sent that off to me as well. It's crazy. It was unbelievable when he sent it to me. I'm like, that's the doors in the background. That's the garage doors. So it just kind of ties everything together that yes, he was actually here. It just makes it feel more real.
Lovely. What a house full of memories.
How great is that? And to have that note from him,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, nice connection for sure. Up next, I'll talk with military analyst Ken Hansen about the next generation of warships to be built in Halifax. That's our Newsmaker interview.
Please stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News.
federal government launched the construction for Canada's new warships at the Irving shipyard today. 15 of them will be built, and they will be known as the River-class destroyers. The construction will happen over 25 years, creating 10,000 jobs. Ken Hansen is a military analyst who we talk to from time to time about these kinds of happenings. And Mr. Hansen, this is a big one for the Canadian Navy. How much of a game changer will this be?
Well, it will get them into the current age and a little bit into the future in terms of weaponry and sensors and all that sort of thing. It will be a big change, mostly because of the strategy that puts in place this continuous building process. It's essential to knock down all of these startup and shutdown costs, to build a knowledge base, to get a skilled workforce and a reliable supply chain.
You know, in the past, and you and I have talked about this, procurement issues have really dogged and delayed military purchase for years in this country. Are we past that now with these ships, at least, given that we are going to be doing the building?
There will be hiccups along the way, just as there was with the Arctic and Offshore Patrol ship. We'll just keep our fingers crossed and say they won't be too big. That kind of depends on what the Navy is intending to do with this design. And I'm hearing all kinds of stuff about they want to put in the latest and greatest American anti-air defense system spot that's called SPY, Aegis, and that will require more space and power than the British design provides. The call for tenders had a technical term in it for an increase of 50% power over and above what was supplied. And I talked to my friend Larry Wilkins, who was the chief engineer for the Canadian Navy for a number of years. He said it's unheard of. So that's an indicator of a type that something is in the works here. And if they're going to go and change the design and start squeezing in things into a hull that's really not suited for all of that, then there will be big change. There will be big delays, big problems.
In fact, so there is clearly a lot of design work still to do, but the vessels, we are told, will be, quote, interoperable with international fleets. How much of a challenge has that been to date, and how will that likely improve?
The long experience we have operating with NATO countries means that this will not be a big stumbling block. It's standard procedure. We're very used to that, and it is the heart of how operations are conducted. So it's important, but it shouldn't prove to be too big of a problem.
Okay. And this announcement, you mentioned NATO, this announcement will not bring Canada all the way to meeting NATO's military spending target of 2% for member nations. How likely is there to be more spending to come to meet that goal?
I think it's very likely. The Canadian Army actually has no air defense system that would protect them from the types of drones and missiles that are being tossed around in Ukraine. So that's one big thing that they need to address. And as far as other increases go, we're in a really interesting time frame now with the way military operations are conducted. So the robotics era, the artificial intelligence possibilities that are now coming up. This is going to be a pace of rapid change, and I fully expect there to be lots more spending, way more than 2%.
And these ships do a lot to solidify the national shipbuilding program, don't they? I mean, this is a big chunk of work for the future.
Absolutely, and that's critical to keep the shipbuilding going and to keep modernization going. So injecting new technologies as they arrive. This design will not be set for the next 25 years, meaning there will have to be changes. When I talked to McCoy, who was the president there at the shipyard some years ago, they were talking about flights of groups of 4 ships, building them in groups of 4. So solidify the design, build 4, and as you're putting them together, your future visioning team is out there scanning, looking for intelligence, looking for new designs and new methodologies. That will be part of the shipbuilding program. This is high tech, and it's going to be complicated, and it will be expensive.
Always great to get your insights, Ken Hansen. Thank you very much.
A great pleasure. It's always good to be with you. Thank you.
Coming up, the casket carrying the remains of an unknown Newfoundland soldier arrived in Ottawa today, where it will lie in state until July 1st.
U.S. Democratic Party officials are aiming to contain the damage from last night's presidential debate.
Most of all, they're trying to dismiss suggestions that Joe Biden's performance could lead him to pulling out of the race. Steve Futterman reports.
The day after his disastrous performance at the debate, Joe Biden almost seemed like a different man. Compare that to last night here in Atlanta. Biden looked every one of his 81 years. His voice was hard to understand. He had trouble putting together words. At times his eyes wandered. One of his worst moments was during the discussion of Medicare.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Today, at his first post-debate campaign appearance in the battled state of North Carolina, Biden said yes, he is old.
I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
The problem for Biden is that last night, millions were focused on the debate and were watching. It will be hard to make people forget. Today, many Democrats and pundits were talking about just how much damage took place.
It wasn't his best debate performance, but we're just going to keep forging ahead. He is not going to be judged by, less than 90 minutes of a debate against someone who has proven himself over and over again to be a perpetual liar.
And some are even raising the possibility of replacing Biden as the presidential nominee.
There is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside?
Joe Biden still can't officially get the nomination until August, when the Democrats meet at their convention in Chicago. And the election itself is still more than 4 months away. A lot can and will happen between now and then, but when it's over, we may still be talking about Joe Biden's bad debate night. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Atlanta.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau seems intent to stay on as Liberal leader. He's multiplying his appearances at fundraising events despite a big loss for the Grits in this week's Toronto St. Paul's by-election. But as Rafi Boudjikanian reports, calls for him to step down are growing louder, including from one of his former cabinet ministers.
We have to fight every single day to break through the noise.
Justin Trudeau insisting he's still in that fight for the next time Canadians go to the polls, expected next year, despite the bruises from a stunning by-election loss in the formerly safe Toronto St. Paul's riding earlier this week.
Once the writ is dropped with 0 MPs, everyone starts that election with 0 votes.
But the calls for him to resign are becoming louder. An email obtained by CBC News shows Liberal MP Wayne Long is calling for new leadership and for the rest of caucus to join that call. Trudeau's own former Environment Minister Catherine McKenna has said in a statement the Prime Minister has a legacy to be proud of, but it's time for new ideas, new energy and a new leader. There's too much at stake in this election, especially on the economy and the climate. And a columnist wrote in the Toronto Star saying he overheard the current Environment Minister calling other Liberals while waiting for a train. Stephen Guilbeault was allegedly discussing unhappiness with the leader among caucus. If we're not trying to address it, it will fester, he is quoted as saying. It makes it more difficult for the boss to stay. The last thing we should do is ignore this. And do you think Justin Trudeau should stay on?
As I say, it's not something that I feel comfortable to share. I think it's discussion that are being done internally. I think ultimately it's his decision, and I respect that.
While this pollster says the grumbling may only grow.
I think we expected a close race in Toronto Centre, but losing it is a symbol of how far I think the Liberal Party and Mr. Trudeau in particular has fallen.
Trudeau, meanwhile, has been holding photo ops all week, but has not taken questions from the media, as some of his own MPs have been clamoring for a national caucus meeting this summer. His office says they have nothing to announce on that front. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
Today marks the start of 3 days of remembrance for Newfoundland's unknown soldier in St. John's, brought home from Beaumont-Hamel in northern France last month. Members of the public are invited to pay their respects before the remains are entombed at the province's National War Cemetery. Peter Cowan has more.
Hundreds lined up to honor a soldier they never knew, more than 100 years after he left Newfoundland for war. Even in the pouring rain, they waited for their moment to say thanks.
There's no mud, there's no rats, there's no dysentery, and there's no bullets flying at me. I don't think I could say the same for that man lying in there.
I can't describe the emotions.
For years, Frank Sullivan pushed for the National War Memorial in St. John's to have its own tomb of the unknown soldier. During the First and Second World War, Newfoundland wasn't part of Canada. The unknown soldier at the War Memorial in Ottawa came from Vimy Ridge. Newfoundlanders didn't fight there.
He doesn't represent the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. So this is why I started this.
The remains of this soldier were unearthed from a field in France earlier this year where he fought and died. A soldier title like this was found in his grave, along with his boots and pieces of uniform.
It was overwhelming with emotion.
The province's premier, visibly emotional at times, had his own private moment.
We hope he would be proud. We hope he would know that the people of Newfoundland and Labrador showed up for him.
For those who showed up, it's not just history, it's often personal. 1/3 of young men from here fought in the First World War.
I'm here representing my grandfather.
Dave Maloney's grandfather was one of the lucky ones. He came home.
I mean, they took the call, they went, and some of them never came back.
The unknown soldier will lie in state until Monday, Memorial Day in this province, when the remains will be entombed at the War Memorial. People will gather to say thank you and farewell to a fallen son of Newfoundland on behalf of all of those who never came home. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. John's.
Princess Anne, who was supposed to attend Memorial Day services in St. John's, has left hospital and returned home after suffering a concussion. The cause of Anne's injuries wasn't clear, but the doctors said her injuries were consistent with an impact from a horse's head or legs. The 73-year-old sister of King Charles had been hospitalized as a precautionary measure, and she is expected to make a full recovery. Anne was injured Sunday while at her estate in southwestern England. For news you can trust, we have the latest on what's happening in your community and a weather forecast you can rely on no matter where you are in Atlantic Canada. I'm Amy Smith.
And I'm Ryan Snoddon.
Join us for Atlantic Tonight.
Right after the National.
Okay, who's glad it's a long weekend? Anybody?
Oh, yeah,
I think
definitely,
we're all
definitely.
pretty pleased about that, aren't we?
Yeah, even if the weather's not going to be perfect, it's still a long weekend, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Some time to get outside tomorrow, some time for some inside time on Sunday. And what's the old saying? There's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. Right?
You'll be promoting that one soon.
So get out and enjoy on Sunday. Just make sure you're dressed for it. Let's run you through the forecast. Have a look at our viewer picture of the day first and foremost. And such a terrific spot. We all know Mabu and, of course, Francis A. McDonald coming to the table all the time with such amazing pictures. Thank you to Francis for sharing. This is Sunset. Beautiful pic. Really
such a mirror
it.
image, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Beautiful day in Mabu tomorrow. Temperatures 22, 23 degrees. And we'll be looking at, again, cooler along the Atlantic coastline. Temperatures mid to high teens if your feet are in the water. But overall, we will be into the low 20s. Sunday's our wet day. Periods of rain primarily throughout the morning, tapering to some showers into the afternoon. Looks like may get a barbecue in on Sunday evening with, maybe just a few lingering showers carrying through on the backside of that low. And there's Monday, which, again, I do have some sun breaks possible. Colchester, Cumberland, the valley up towards the North Shore, and a greater chance for some showers as we work our way down towards the Atlantic coastline. But as we've been saying, there's just a ton of uncertainty with that trough that's going to be basically parked just offshore. So there's the timeline. And again, for Saturday night and Sunday, lots of green in there, a few pockets of yellow, and then that front again will be just offshore. But some forecast models do have it further north than that. So just be ready.
Right. Hopefully it holds off.
Yes.
Let's hope. Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Well, a bat boy with the Los Angeles Dodgers might be the most popular guy in baseball right now. You'll see why in this video.
A foul ball came screaming into the Dodgers dugout during Wednesday night's game, whizzing towards superstar Shohei Ohtani. But check out the reflexes of this bat boy. He caught the ball with his bare hands, potentially saving Ohtani from serious injury.
The video has gone viral by the way the bat boy is 38 years old. So maybe he's more of a Batman fitting since that catch was a total superhero.
Yeah,
what reflexes,
superhero for sure. That's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Have a good night.
Good night.